Get social with us. Follow us on Instagram at Goodtaste TV. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Good Taste for the Soul, the gardening version. I'm Tanji Patton. One of our most popular segments we did a couple of months ago with the Garden Girls, some women in Houston that are friends and have come together, and they have this incredible business where they not only garden in their own backyards, but they will go to your home and help you plan and design a garden of your own. They'll even do it for you if you want, and they'll teach you how to take care of it along the way. So the last time we talked to them, I don't think hardly anything had been planted in my garden. I'll show you what it looked like. I had gotten the dirt ready. I had done some things to the soil to kind of boost it a little bit, but I hadn't really gotten going on planting. Well, fast forward a couple of months and the picture's entirely different. So I thought it's time to check in with the Garden Girls again to get more tips that we all can use. Okay, Garden Girls, I'm excited to see you again. I learned so much last time we talked.
Great.
This will be fun.
We love the headband.
Oh, thank you for sending it. I feel really special to be an official garden girl.
We saw photos of your garden and they look amazing.
Oh, well, you're very kind. I can't wait to get your advice because last time we talked, you all had some wonderful tips and ideas on doing a garden, things that I hadn't thought about before. So it was fun. And I tried to take some of those and try to incorporate it into my garden. I clearly don't have the artistic eye you do, but I'm hoping that others can learn from my mistakes and then I can do some correction.
I think you're doing awesome.
Yes. They're going to learn from your successes too.
Well, we'll see. Jury is still out on that. So I guess at this point, last time we talked, it was time to get seeds in the ground, right? Your tomatoes and things like that. So now it's kind of an early arrival of spring, I think, in terms of the high temperatures we've been getting.
Yes, we think so too.
Yeah, so things are a little different. And to me, that's one of the fun things about gardening. Every year is so different and the challenges are different, right?
Yeah, certainly. And it's funny because I was gone for the weekend and when I came back, it was like the garden had exploded. It's fun to go away for a couple of days right now in the spring because you see so much growth and it's just magnified, even like within 24 hours. So,
that is so true.
Yes. Yeah. So the tomatoes that we planted a little over a month ago now are starting to form actual fruit. And so we're focusing now more on tending and trellising those tomatoes and also pinching our pepper plants to make sure that we get full production from our crops, I guess you would say. Yeah. Even our backyard
Now, when
crops.
you talk about pinching your pepper plants, are they already setting? What are you pinching to get? I'm new at this.
Well, so Nicole and I were talking about this earlier, and this is the first season that I'm actually doing this. But if your pepper plants are starting to form little flower buds, if you remove some of those, then the main stem is going to send more energy out into the other stems, and so it's going to force it's going to send it into overdrive basically and want to produce
kind of like deadheading your rose bush. Basically.
Exactly like that. It's sort of reminding the plant to keep growing. And that's what happens when you just trim your tomato plants and you remove some of the stems that are forming laterally, that encourages more vertical growth. And so that's very healthy for the plant.
Well, you bring up a good point because and I sent you pictures. We'll talk about it in a minute. I've got something weird eating on my tomato plants, and I don't think it's that ugly little caterpillar. But the how severely do you trim those leaves towards the bottom of the stalk? I've heard different viewpoints on that. I had a lady recently tell me, cut them all off. The plant doesn't need them anymore. You want it to grow strong and tall and big.
So we like to trim even a determinate and an indeterminate tomato. We like to trim like the first 12 to 18 inches it's just like the main stem. And that helps pest pressure. So there's no leaves like near the soil.
Yeah.
And And then from there, if you have a indeterminate tomato, which grows and grows and grows, we're going to also prune a lot of the branches and keep the suckers, which form the flowers, because we want more tomatoes, but smaller. And we want good airflow, especially in Houston with the humidity. So we want to really trim our tomatoes up so we get good airflow, which is going to lead to less disease too.
Okay.
And we just don't want a tomato jungle. So many times,
That's true.
One of my best friends is our clients. She's terrible at trimming her tomatoes. And she's always like, I'm sorry, but she will end up with a tomato jungle every year.
Well, and when you've got a tomato jungle, it's a lot easier for those ugly little green, what are they called that have the
hornworms?
Hornworms.
Yes.
It's harder to find them.
Yes, they're maniacal. They have this like sweet smile on their face, but they're literally decimating your plant.
Yes, they are. And they can do it quite quickly.
And we all get them. That's the thing about tomatoes. We all will end up with tomato blight, which is totally normal, especially when you have humidity. Tomato blight is a fungal disease that happens, and it's transported via the leaves. So when I saw the photos of what you sent on your tomato leaves, I would just snip that stem off.
Okay.
If the leaves look a little funky and they look like, sometimes right now we have sun scorch, and so the leaves can be spotted. They can almost look a little bit burnt or crispy on the edges. Just trim those.
Yeah. And also, we had really cool temperatures in Houston about a week ago in the morning and the evenings. And so some of my tomato leaves and cucumber leaves look damaged from that cool weather. So you can have the sun scorched, and then also the cool weather can also damage leaves. So just trim up the unhealthy looking leaves. And also, in case it would be fungal or something, you want to clean your clippers after you trim.
Okay, I'm really bad about that. I need to be better. Is
just
there
alcohol pads?
Okay.
Alcohol pads or Clorox wipes, anything like that is just a perfect quick way, or even just soapy water, and make sure that they dry really well so you're not getting rust. But Nicole had a great point about trimming the tomatoes from the ground up. The rule of thumb that I want all gardeners to remember is to never remove more than 1/3 of a plant at one time unless you're done with that plant. So right now you have some lettuces I think I saw growing in your garden.
Right.
And they're starting to bolt, which means they're getting that thick center stem. It's starting to go to flower because the temperatures are getting really much warmer. So now would be a good time to actually remove the entire plant and clear up that space for something else and use up that lettuce.
Okay. Okay. Because I was going to ask you, what's the best way to harvest lettuce, from the bottom or the top?
Well,
because I don't go out there and cut the whole thing. I kind of.
Yes. And now it's just getting too warm for lettuce. So I would remove the entire thing, and then I would just wash it off and use your lettuce leaves as normal. But things like arugula, those are going to grow from seed. It's very easy to sow that year round. You'll see germination within a week. If you sow some arugula seeds, just scatter them right on top of the soil, water them in gently every day for about 10 days, and you're going to see some quick germination there. And those arugula leaves can be eaten when they're very small. Those are microgreens. The taller they get, the more bitter they will taste, or more peppery, I should say, they will taste. So eat them at your own preference, but it really is time to get the lettuce out. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, we're hitting 90. I think we had one day at almost 95. I mean, it's crazy.
I'm sorry. I don't think we've hit 90 yet in Houston, but we're getting close. Very close.
Oh, wow. No, we have here. We're zone 8. So you would think you guys would be hotter than we are, but not necessarily. We've had the cool nights and mornings like you were describing. And if you saw from what I sent you right now, I'm just about to pull those covers. I have 2 different kinds of covers I use out here because of the wind. The ones you saw in the garden are they can be somewhat insulating when they're all closed. So they protect against some of that cooler weather or freezes, frankly. But the one I'm going to switch to is more of a mesh, and they're green.
Yes.
And so they let everything, the sunlight comes in, it circulates, but it keeps a lot of the bugs and birds away.
Yeah. Which is perfect. I loved your setup. I was very impressed.
Oh, well, it's obviously a work in progress. One of the questions I did have, because when I use those covers, I can sometimes run into height problems with those the tomatoes. It's indeterminate. They get so tall. Can you trim tomatoes from the top? Do you ever do that?
Yes, you can. But now topping a tomato kind of sends a signal that you want it to finish up for the season. So we do that later, like late May, early June, when we're really trying to push our harvest. So what you would want to do is really use a nice, tall, firm cage, continue to trellis, but really make sure that you remove some of those offshoots.
Okay.
It can grow up, but when it starts to grow out, that's when you start to have some airflow issues. Or if you have an arch, of course, an arch is always very helpful because I'm looking in my own garden and I have 2 arches that are covered in tomatoes and they're going to cover the entire arch.
Yeah. Really? What kind of tomatoes?
Indeterminate. So smaller sun gold tomatoes. They're like a yellow tomato. If any of your viewers are looking for the most delicious tomato in all of Texas, it's called a sun gold tomato, and it's our absolute favorite.
I had my first 2 from my garden this weekend. I didn't even share them with my family. I just ate them right off the vine, and I didn't tell anyone. I was like, these are mine. They're special.
I'd love to hear someone else say that, too. I've done that with a strawberry or tomato here or there, too. And I'm like,
yes.
I put all that work in.
Exactly. It's a little red hen syndrome.
A little reward. Well, I wanted to ask you too, because other people may be having the same thing. I sent you a photo of a tomato leaf, and you can see there's some brown spotting on it. The one thing I don't think I sent you a photo of that think these may be related. Something is eating on the stems towards the bottom, and it's not just the tomatoes, also the cucumbers. It's like I don't know if they're crawling along it. Someone said it could be beetles coming up at night.
Huh. So there's so many mysteries about what's eating your garden.
Right.
I have a little magnifying glass that I use and it's really nerdy, I know, but I like to take it out and look on my leaves because we're even learning more about what's eating our garden. So obviously you can have little tiny caterpillars. Those form the really perfect holes, or sometimes even a hole that looks like a heart. You have your hornworms that'll actually strip the leaves, so it's just a bare stem. Then you have your aphids, and those can do smaller holes, right? So what I do, and then also you have some things that end up like little black pellets on your leaves. Those can be babies of other things like spider mites. They could be aphid babies. They could be who knows what. The most important thing is to just remove that stem or the leaves. You can spray them down with water, or I just use my fingers and I kind of run over the leaves or the stem, and whatever looks like it shouldn't be on the stem or the leaves, I try to get rid of it. And that's organic gardening.
Do you have any products you use that still fall under the organic, like the soap water or is it spinosad?
We love insecticidal soap. That's one of my go-tos.
Insecticidal
if I'm not sure,
soap.
Yes, insecticidal soap. You can make your own or you can buy it in a spray form. That's one of my go-tos if I'm not sure what the problem is. I mean, first I'll try to just remove the leaves. And then if I see like the problem's not getting better with me spraying or hand removing, then I will spray the plant when it's not in the middle of the day, not when it's scorching hot out, but I will try to spray the plant like mid-morning, early morning with insecticidal soap and get under the leaves, because a lot of times whatever's pests you have, it's more hiding underneath the leaf than on top.
Yeah. So they hide.
But I honestly, I let the garden be for everyone. So, I hate when I lose a pepper plant to aphids or something, but if it's totally succumbing everything, then I might remove the plant, but I really don't stress too much about pests.
No, you guys made a comment last time. I think I wrote it down. Purpose over perfection, right?
Yes, 100%. And everything is an experiment with gardening. So, we may not understand what's eating our leaves, but it's another opportunity for us to deep dive and see if we can figure it out.
And sometimes it never impacts the production at all. You'll still have great production, even though you might have like a caterpillar or something.
That is true. That's one thing I noticed last year, when there would be something on the leaves and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Often, if you just wait it out, it kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, it does. And your plants are healthy. They want to live. Yeah. So a healthy plant will learn to kind of battle against that. One thing that I do after a rain is I use my leaf blower and I kind of just go around the garden and I gently blow all the plants. And it's not to dry them off. It's because I kind of want to make tough plants. So I just figure that, like,
I never knew this about her. I'm learning something.
It's really weird. I know. I also do that with my Peggy Martins. Right now we're finishing our flush of flowering. So the Peggy Martin buds that bloomed are now becoming a little bit weathered. They're looking a little more pale. Eventually, when those are dry and look kind of gross, I just take my leaf blower and I just blow the arch and all the dead blooms come off and then it's clean.
Easy.
Did you know the Peggy Martin rose? Are you familiar with the Peggy Martin rose? Oh, you have to look it up. It's the most spectacular vining rose in Houston.
And it grows so well. It grew during Katrina and it survived being underwater for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And was named after a woman, I believe, named Peggy.
Yeah.
And so this rose, anyone in Texas or anywhere in the South, for that matter, who wants to grow a beautiful climbing rose, grow the Peggy Martin.
Yeah, they're putting on a show right now in Houston, just pink and vibrant and beautiful.
Oh, I'm glad to know about that. I love roses. Ours do well this time of year, and then once June, July hit, it's it gets a little rough. What are some other things? So it's been an early spring, so we're getting hot weather. What seems like a little earlier than maybe last time. What are some things now you could still plant? And probably from seed, because right now the nurseries are pretty wiped out.
This is true. So okra, very easy by seed and it grows quickly. We're also focusing a lot on flowers like zinnia. Cut flower grows very fast. It's going to be a wonderful pollinator over summer for the bees and the butterflies. And also cosmos. Sunflower, also another great flower to plant. And the reason why we like these is because once school gets out and families begin to travel and it gets really hot, this is kind of our winter. We don't really want to hang out outside, even though we love our gardens. We spend less time outside in our gardens during the summer. So if we can make a big, beautiful impact and help our pollinators by planting flowers, that kind of fills the garden space too and prevents weeds. Yeah. But we're doing something for nature as well. So,
are there any vegetables that it's not too late to go ahead and get started that would do okay with the heat?
Yeah, eggplant. You can still plant eggplant, peppers, whole beans, cowpeas.
Yes, cowpeas, southern peas.
Those are wonderful. And then you can also do your melons. So if you wanted to do watermelon or cantaloupe, that's a great one now. Loofah gourd, that's kind of an uncommon one, but it's really an incredible pollinator and it forms this, like a loofah sponge.
Right.
It forms, it almost looks like a corn on the cob and they hang down if you grow them on an arch with this beautiful yellow flower. And at the end of the season, you take those off and you let them dry, cut them into sections, and then you have loofah sponges.
Really?
Yes.
Now they are an aggressive grower, the plants. So
they'll take over where you're at.
Be ready for it. Yes.
Find an
arch. And it's called the name again, loofah gourd?
Yes, loofah gourd.
That's a good one. I have not heard of that before. Okay.
So basically, some people that don't love the taste of it, but Malabar spinach is another one. It's a beautiful leaf, kind of red and green. But it's sort of one of the few greens you can grow in the summer besides arugula. And maybe some mizuna. You could grow mizuna, which is sort of a feathery, kind of mustardy lettuce.
Okay. I planted spinach here whenever I planted, a couple of months ago. Whatever is eating stuff in my garden, it devours the spinach. I have done everything I know to do, to keep it and try to get it to grow. I bet we've had spinach maybe once or twice. And
my gosh.
I know. Something is just consuming the leaves.
But you were growing some squash, weren't you? I thought I saw some squash in your garden or a pretty leaf that resembled.
I didn't do squash this year. They take up those garden beds are sort of, they're only like 4x8. Squash can demand a
it
lot
can
of real
sprawl.
estate.
Yeah. So if you can't grow squash because of space, you might want to consider zucchini because that grows more upright than it does out.
Say it again. Grow what? You cut out.
Zucchini.
So it grows a little differently.
Yes, it will grow more vertically than it will horizontally.
Okay,
And
that's
also
good to know.
another great summer herb is basil.
Yes.
Everyone should have basil in their garden in the summer.
I agree. I totally agree. I love basil. All right. Well, I've learned something new on that. Okay, let me take you back to spacing a little bit because I sent you the photos in the garden. Do I have too much dirt? I've always been on that. I hate to use anal retentive where it says plant 8 inches apart, and all that. You guys don't really adhere to that. So I'm wondering if I have too much.
No, it looked good. It looked beautiful. I would fill in any blank spaces with some flowers or things that can trail over the sides. The reason why we plant intensively, there's a couple different reasons. It keeps weeds at bay. Mm-hmm. So when we're removing sunlight from hitting the soil directly, we're going to have fewer weeds. It also confuses the pests. So as long as we're not planting an entire bed of one thing, then that caterpillar is not going to be able to eat everything. It really wants a certain plant. And it looks really beautiful. So the spacing that is discussed on seed packets is really for row farmers. Okay. So you can play around and, if things grow and they feel a little bit too, too tight in the space, just pull something. Okay. I did that with a pepper. I was like, I'm sorry, but we're getting a little crunched here. Something's got to go. I try to trim around it, but if that doesn't work eventually, just remove something.
Okay. And don't be afraid of doing that, right?
Nope.
What are some of the fertilizers at this point that you guys rely on?
Well, we love leaf mold compost. So that's sort of a go-to to kind of mound around your tomatoes and peppers and eggplants, those things that are heavy feeders, the things that fruit. So that would be a great option. We also like a liquid fertilizer, something with a high middle number. So that's going to be for fruiting. So there's 3 numbers on fertilizer, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So the first number is nitrogen, which is good for greens if you have a high number. The second number, if it's high, that's good for fruiting. So we like, it's called Maximum Blooms. It's a liquid fertilizer. We love that. And then always we love just anything with like fish emulsion or seaweed. That always gives the garden a nice pep.
Because your things, and part of it may be the climate in Houston, there's always moisture in the air, it seems. But your gardens are just, you can tell everything is so healthy.
Yes, and when we fertilize, sometimes you will see some leaf burn. So don't do it in the middle of the day. We like to do it on like a cool morning, maybe with some clouds. I choose Sunday for my day because it's usually when I have the most time to spend just kind of walking around, checking my garden. And it just becomes like this meditative routine that, okay, today's the day we're going to fertilize. And it's almost like a pregnancy vitamin for your garden. You'll see a big difference. Once to twice a week, especially on your fruiting plants, like your tomatoes, eggplant, okra, your heavy feeders, your peppers. Things like beans do not need any additional fertilization because they actually give nitrogen back into the soil. So if you're growing beans, pole beans, or bush beans, you don't need to add any fertilizer there.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that. When you mentioned the liquid fertilizer, are you using one that you spray the plants with, or are you using something?
You can like drench the leaves. I think Jen drenches leaves more than me. I normally just go around the base of the plant where the soil is, where the roots are. And I just read the instructions on the bottle. Sometimes it'll tell you, but I just, do like about a shot glass of liquid fertilizer and then fill up the rest of my watering can with water and just kind of water around the roots. But fertilizing is going to be a game changer in your garden if you're not doing it.
Okay. I've done it once. Clearly I haven't done it enough. I need to pick up the pace, which I can easily do.
And if you just have a day of the week like Jen does, that's what I think works best.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. What about water. Everybody has their own method of how much they'll water, right? Do you stick a finger? Some people say stick your finger in the soil, and if you feel moisture, from an inch on, you're probably okay. What do y'all go by with that? Because it's so easy to look at your garden and think, oh my gosh, they need water. And maybe
Right.
they don't.
Sometimes people overlove their gardens with water, and I certainly did that when I was first starting out. I would take my hose and I would just spray everything thinking, oh, it's going to be perfect this way. That's actually the last thing that you want to do. You want to water at root level and you want to be consistent. So we always recommend drip irrigation. The other thing is when it gets really hot, I find myself hand watering more often. So if I'm planting by seed, like I just added some zinnia and some cosmos and some arugula, I'm going to come out every morning and I'm going to hand water at root level until I see germination. And then I'm able to back off a little bit. I did just plant dahlia tubers last month, and those are all coming up now. And so those require a deeper water once a week. So when you get to know your plants, like your tomatoes or your peppers, they're going to give you signs. If the leaves are turning brown and crispy, generally not enough water. And that's sort of a curl. If they're turning yellow, especially at the base, that generally means too much water. So if you can take signs from your garden and also use that fingertip test, you should be in good standing.
So you guys do the finger in the soil as well?
We sure do.
And how far do you go before you think, oh, they need water?
I stick it almost all the way down.
Do you? Oh, okay. So if you put your entire, like your forefinger down,
Yep.
if you feel moisture, do you think, well, they're okay for a while?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because the top of the soil usually will look dry and sometimes even cracked. But as long as those plants have already been planted and they're not new seedlings, that's okay because their roots are that far down. But if you have new plantings, new things that need to germinate, you're really going to need to water the surface level of the soil. They don't have roots yet.
So that's when they need more just the little handheld hose maybe out there giving it a shot, right?
Yes.
Anything else you saw in the photos that would be helpful, maybe things that look like something is happening here that shouldn't be, that would help others as well? Because everything
looked so good. And I love the color combos. I thought there was a height difference. I saw that you had some protection over some of the plants with some netting. I loved it.
Well, y'all really inspired me. I had never thought about, I've always heard about marigolds, are good for pests and everything, but I never thought about looking at the planting of the garden as something aesthetic, right? And I don't know if you noticed in one of the beds, I've got snap peas. I'm hoping it doesn't get too hot, but I even had a little trellis I built. And I remembered you guys said height in the middle.
Yes.
Lower plants. So I've got my little peas coming up in the middle. We'll see how they do. Like I say, it got hot pretty quickly, so we'll see.
Yes, we had to pull ours. It did get too warm, but you can replace those with some morning glories if you want some flowers. That would be really pretty. And then always add some milkweed and add some dill to your gardens because the dill is actually too hot for dill. It's going to flower almost right away, but it attracts these caterpillars that become swallowtail butterflies. And so I just looked over into my dill yesterday and I saw this huge caterpillar. It looked almost like a monarch caterpillar, and it was munching away almost like a puppy. Like you can read its expressions practically on this little fat face. And it was so happy, but it's such a great pollinator to add into your gardens.
And they're good caterpillars as opposed to the ones that eat everything in sight.
Yes, we want those. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is great. Anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to add that might be helpful to someone? I know I had a question. One of the things you guys talked about very quickly last time was it bone meal or blood meal?
Both of them. Those are both great fertilizers. So blood meal is going to be higher in the nitrogen, so for your greens, and then the bone meal is going to be higher in your phosphorus. So you could use that instead of a liquid fertilizer for your fruiting vegetables. That would be a great choice.
Not both. One or the other, right?
Yeah. So more now we're typically, because more of our gardens are heavy fruiting things, so we're using more bone meal now. But in the winter, we would be using more blood meal because we've got more lettuces and things like that.
Okay, great. Well, good deal. Well, we shall carry on with these fun gardens.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see your harvest.
I know.
I'll take pictures as we go along. My first project clearly will be go out there and cut all that lettuce. I've got to figure out what to put in its place. That area gets a little sun in the morning, and then it gets a couple of hours of shade, and then it gets sun on the back side. So
maybe some arugula seed. Do you have arugula yet?
I don't, and I love arugula, even when it gets peppery. So that's a good idea.
I think that'd be a great choice.
Okay, and it sounds easy.
Yes, so easy. It germinates so quickly. You feel like you're like a garden pro with arugula.
I love that. Well, I've planted sunflowers. They're only about the little seedlings that big along the back of that fence. So I'm hoping
it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they come up
fast. Yeah.
Good. Well, it's tough out here. The soil out here is really dry and there's a lot of limestone, right? So I'm hoping all that rock isn't too close to the surface, but they should be hardy, right?
Oh yeah. They want to grow.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, guys, thank you so much. And we'll check back in with you in a couple of months. And probably by then we'll see all your beautiful flowers just going crazy.
We sure hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always
Thank you. And we'll have the website up for folks to check you out too, because you guys do custom gardens, right? You'll come out to their house and do it for them.
100% turnkey, designed, installed, usually in a day or two.
Yeah.
Yes, we make garden dreams come true.
I like the way you say usually in a day or two. Yes. Well, perfect. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Easter.
Thank you.
You
Happy
too.
Easter.
Happy Easter.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Get social with us. Follow us on Instagram at Goodtaste TV.